pattern of behavior, and it's a pattern of behavior that only goes one way. Okay, I think that it started off this summer where I noticed I had a pretty big week on social and Instagram. I looked at my analytics, and with 20-something million impressions, I had 0 new followers. So I sort of called it out. I put it out there. I put up screenshots. Against all probability, how can you have that many likes, that many this, that, and have 0 new followers? It seemed like a statistical anomaly. I called it out. The week later, I was back to normal 10, 15,000 new followers. It happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was one of the first people to sort of say, hey, you know what? If what happened to Jesse Smollett has really happened, then people should go down for it. But, man, it sounds weird that guys would yell, this is MAGA country. I've been all over the country. I've never heard anyone say that.
And not in Chicago. Not in Chicago.
Well, I think, if you're wearing a MAGA hat in downtown Chicago, I got criticized for saying this the other day, but I think you'd make it about 2 seconds before being shot. So, but more importantly, Seb, it was like the rest of the story. So 2 people were waiting at 2 in the morning on the coldest night of the year. I think it was -4 degrees,
right,
with a noose and a bottle of bleach to attack a rich actor, knowing that he'd go get Subway at 2 in the morning because a rich guy couldn't afford to call Seamless. It didn't make sense. And now, obviously, you can't even question the leftists without, but it just seemed odd. So I was one of the first people to pee on that. And then when it finally came out, I go, here was my tweet, basically saying, it was a screenshot of my tweet saying, hey, who'd have thought? Downtown's a big MAGA stronghold, but man, you don't think they'd be this blatant. I put it up there. I get, 50,000 likes, 35,000 likes, whatever it was, and all of a sudden I get a note from Instagram. Your post has been deleted and all this. So I said, okay, here's a screenshot of the post. Here's a screenshot of this, and I put it up there being like, this is what happened. Here's all the facts. Here's this. There's nothing controversial about it. These are actual things that happened that other people have said, and they just chose to delete the post. There was no violation, but there's always the excuse, right?
Right.
So I called them out on it and did another post of the exact same thing and, explained the situation. And, Seb, I got inundated. Hundreds of people. Oh, my God, Don, I'm so glad you said something. I've had to follow you 3 times in the last week, meaning they thought they were following me. They followed me, and then all of a sudden they weren't, magically. Not through their own doing.
So have you asked Instagram to respond to any of these?
Well, they said, well, the excuse is, it was either an accident. That's what happened when they deleted the post. It was an accident. It was obviously, it's amazing. It's always a controversial political post. It's always conservative, and it's always an accident.
Always.
Then I said, well, what about the other things? How come people are being locked out of their accounts because they're liking my father's, my posts, whatever it may be? Conservatives not able to follow other accounts. Conservatives having to relike and being deleted off of there again, and or conservative accounts that are all of a sudden magically following liberal accounts that they never chose to follow. I'm just getting inundated with all of these people being like, look, here's the screenshot. Here's this thing of me being blocked out of my account for 24 hours because I tried liking a picture of your dad and his grandkids, my kids, for President's Day and these sort of things. And, I mean, it was a flooding. I had friends that I've known for decades calling me and be like, dude, I still follow you. You're still there, but, like, you literally don't even show up in my feed. Or, Don, I search your actual handle, at Donald J. Trump Jr., with 1.6 million followers on Instagram, and you don't even show up as a top search result of your actual handle. Of course, Instagram says, oh, no, it's because of spamming behavior that, it does this. This is how they all, someone choosing to follow your account and being deleted 3 times, that's not spamming behavior.
Right.
Someone choosing to like a tweet of someone that has a pretty popular account, or, the president of the United States choosing to like a tweet or liking an Instagram post of theirs is not spamming behavior. Someone voluntarily do this. I'm not flooding their accounts with anything. So they are doing something. It is systematic, it is continuous, and it is one way, and it needs to stop. Now, the difference between me and so many other people, I see this a lot in the Second Amendment community, people saying, oh, man, I've paid for ads, I've tried to grow my following, and it just keeps shrinking. The accounts that I follow, they're experiencing. I mean, these are people that don't have my ability to voice their concern in a way that's going to get any kind of traction. They don't have the ability to be like, yeah, sure, I'll go on, Seb. Sure, I'll go on Hannity. I'll go on whatever. You know what I mean? They don't have that soapbox. So, it's really, I feel like it's my obligation to point this out. And the second I point it out, I mean, the outpouring of other people that felt exactly like I do, but again, don't have the ability to voice it. I have to do something. I can't sit back and allow it to happen. To me, it seems like a dry run for 2020. How are we going to suppress the message? How are we going to amplify the leftist message while suppressing the good conservative message that's out there? You see it with the SLPC and PayPal CEO saying they had an arrangement with. I mean, there is no secret that Silicon Valley, the media titan, the social media titans, they are all liberals. Okay, even the ones that aren't don't have the guts generally to speak out because of what happens if you actually do. They deny it. They pretend it's this, but it's a one-way problem. Trust me.
Right.
The leftists would be complaining like you wouldn't believe if they felt there was even a little bit of bias one way. And you know what, Seb? I'm not asking for, a disadvantage. I'm asking for a level playing field, and it's not too much to ask, especially considering all of the advantages that so many of these companies are getting from the federal government. Well, they shouldn't be discriminating. It's not the typical conservative policy of, it's a private company. You can choose to. It's really not. They're getting a lot of advantages, whether it's through bandwidth and all sorts of other things that sort of eliminates that they can't be discriminating the way that they so almost obviously to me have to be. Again, they're going to issue their thing, say they deny it, but the reality is we see it time and time again. We see it from all these conservative accounts, and it needs to stop.
Well, Don, do you think Americans understand what this plan means to them?
No, I don't think they do. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, total revenue of the U.S. government is $6.5 trillion annually. Total revenue.
Right.
So what is that? 14 and change times. So assume the U.S. government collects what it collects and doesn't spend on anything other than the Green New Deal. It'll take 15 years to pay off this thing with no other expense. That doesn't work. And what's scarier about the concept, other than obviously, it'd be kind of terrible to not be able to travel or airplanes or, can't have any steak anymore because cows fart. And, is that every mainstream, viable Democratic presidential candidate jumped on this thing because they're too afraid to take on a freshman congressman who 3 weeks ago didn't know what the three branches of government were. Man, what does that say about the Democratic contenders and what they really are? I mean, they'll say anything to appease any kind of controversy. They won't take on, what Donald Trump was, and ultimately what we needed in this country was we needed sort of the disciplinarian parent to be like, enough, guys. This kind of craziness has to stop. And when I see the crazy that's coming out of the left, whether it's this plan, whether it's the post-term abortion, meaning the baby is born and then you can change your mind, all of the things that we're seeing these days, I mean, this is not America. These are not even ideas that would be entertained in a rational society at this point. It's truly scary. And listen, I'd like to thank them for their contribution to the Trump 2020 campaign.
Well, this is my next question. Do we have to be really careful, Don, not to be lulled into a false sense of security? That the crazier they get, the safer the MAGA agenda and your father's reelection is, or do we have to fight even harder?
I don't think that's the case at all. Okay. Because again, no different than our last conversation about social media. We're not on a level playing field. We're not in a fair fight. We're fighting with one hand tied behind our back. Donald Trump, the highest stock market of all time. Every economic metric possible. There's not a single metric where we're not better off today. All-time low African American employment. All-time low Hispanic American unemployment. 93% negative coverage.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. And that's fine. It's never going to be. The media's always been leftist, but now you have sort of the social media aspect where people think that because they're following people of like mind that they're going to get that kind of messaging. And, we're being lulled into this false sense of security that, okay, that's going to be fine. And, we're not in a fair fight. It's not a level playing field. And this kind of crazy, they're going to perpetuate, oh, no, well, it's theoretical. No, it wasn't theoretical. You saw what they did. They had the guy go on Tucker and say, well, that's not really what. No, it's exactly what you meant.
It is exactly.
You just realize now how freaking stupid it is. Now you're saying, oh well, now we're just kidding. It's it's theoretical, not actual. It's nonsense, and that's what they're always trying to pull. That's what they constantly do. We've seen it forever, and that's what it is. They're going to keep trying to come up with the nonsense and the hoaxes. You see what's going on this week. All of a sudden, Mueller last week was their savior. He's going to be the guy. Oh well, now it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So we're going to investigate on our own because leaky Adam Schiff. He knows better. Now, this is the guy that runs an intelligence committee, quote unquote. They got to rename it if he's the head of it because it doesn't fit anymore. But this is a guy that got pranked by Ukrainian shock jocks.
Yes.
Because they claimed they had information on Donald Trump. So this is a guy that's supposed to be he's entrusted with classified information. And
oversight.
He's calls from Ukrainian shock jocks.
Right.
Not doing any kind of vetting. By the way, and he's out there criticizing me for taking a non-solicited meeting and listening. I mean, think about the hypocrisy of all of it. And this clown is out there running an intelligence committee. But this is what it's going to be. Time and time again, this is what we're up against. And so we can never have that false sense of security just because everything is working well. And I think we saw some of that in midterms. People say, come on, who's really going to vote against these kind of successes? Who's really going to vote against these kind of wins?
Here's
a little complacent, and that's when we lose.
I have in front of me a Gallup poll, brand new Gallup poll, and it's kind of history making. 58% of American of those polled say that America rates favorably in the world's eyes. 58%. That is the highest figure Gallup has recorded since 2003, and I think that has a lot to do with your dad.
Well, I think it does because, America has its guts back. I think there's a better word for it. It may not be there for radio, but, America has its respect back. When we say we're going to do something, we actually do it. We don't virtue signal. We just do what's right. And that's what you had 8 years of. Well, we gotta appease these guys. They're terrible people. So, that's why you have 60 years where nothing was getting done on the Korean Peninsula, and you have someone who's finally doing it. I've told you this before, but it was nothing more entertaining for me than over the last 2 years watching the pundits talking about, well, I've been dealing with North Korea and the issue for my entire career, 40 years of their life's work. Meanwhile, they never got a meeting with the guy. They never even got in the room with the counterpart.
Not once.
This guy's an expert. This guy's not an expert. This guy's a clown. You know what I mean? And these guys are the people that are making trillion-dollar decisions for us. So Donald Trump's gotten in there. He's shaking things up, and he's doing it right, and that's what he got voted in to do.
We say, and I ask you to say with us, lift up your voices in this great meeting in the heart of England, and to all the world, a message, England lives!